Very excited to tell your story for a few reasons. RateGain is the first SaaS company to go public in India. While growing up, were there any specific experiences?
I think my dad, he was a huge influence on me. Something that he used to say to me often was that there's no fun in mediocrity.
RateGain is like 8,000, 10,000 CR company now currently in India. Tell us what RateGain does.
So when we pivoted the business model, we started licensing this technology to different online travel agents. What we do now is we provide an integrated tech stack that allows our customers to acquire guests, retain and engage them, and have a wallet share expansion.
Maybe name a few customers.
So Expedia, Booking, Airbnb in India, Make My Trip. So every major OTA, every major hotel chain that you can think of is now today a RateGain customer. We take a lot of pride in that.
When you started the company, you had a goal. At one point, I want to go public.
I was trying to fight for keeping the company alive. I never thought we would go public. I feel like I was very, very lucky as well that I moved back to India because I wouldn't have been able to create RateGain sitting in the US.
What advice would you give to Indians abroad?
I think it's a huge opportunity for the next 2 to 3 decades. It's the decade of India.
Recently talked about Dodge in the US, and I found it very, very interesting.
Hopefully I won't get into trouble for offering up my suggestions on the topic.
Today we had Bhanu Chopra on the podcast. Bhanu founded RateGain. RateGain is a global travel technology company. It specializes in providing SaaS solutions for the travel and hospitality industry. RateGain is actually India's best kept secret company. It went public in 2021. During our conversation, we covered topics like his time in the US, what made him move back to India, the journey of RateGain from idea to IPO, his advice to Indian diasporas who are thinking about India as an opportunity, and we got to know him. Who is he outside of work? Bhanu, thank you so much for making the time to come sit with me for an hour. I'm really, really excited to host you on the 1947 Rise podcast.
Thank you, Shiva. I'm very excited to be part of this. Learning what you're trying to achieve with this podcast, encouraging people to return and how, talk about stories where it has been a huge success. So excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely, and I'm specifically very, very excited to tell your story for a few reasons. One, RateGain is the first SaaS company to go public in India. Secondly, it's a company that was built in India for the world. Yeah. Majority of your customers are actually globally. Maybe to begin with, Bhanu, we're really a byproduct of our environment. What really shaped you the most while growing up? Were there any specific experiences that just left a long-lasting impact on you?
So growing up, I think my dad, he was a huge influence on me, and he, instilled very good work ethic into me. So I always saw him work hard, traveling quite a bit, and always trying to achieve things. So I think that created a huge amount of that drive to create an impact. Because I saw, something that he used to say to me often was that there's no fun in mediocrity. There is always, there was always a desire by him to do something. And he was a fairly accomplished businessman himself. So he was involved in construction and he built, very, very large bridges. He built the Rail Yatri Mas, which is the hotel next to the railway station. He would travel to international locations. So he did like large projects in Bangladesh. So I saw that desire in him to build something huge, and how he really went after it and sacrificed, his comfort to go all after it and achieve that. So I think I was quite influenced by him. And early on, only I was quite interested in the world of computers. So I started taking classes very early on. When I was in class 7th, I was taking software classes, trying to teach myself technology.
Yeah.
So I always knew I wanted to do something in technology. And although he came from like a real estate background, he never encouraged me to join his business. So he always encouraged me to go pursue my dreams and try to create a big impact. So, so I think those couple of things really shaped me.
Yeah. And Bhanu, you ended up moving to US.
Yeah.
You went to undergrad there. Maybe tell us more about the reason behind moving to US. What was the experience like? I think you worked at Deloitte Consulting for a bit, and then walk us through what made you move back to India.
So, as I was saying to you, like early on, I was doing lots of courses in computers. So, at that time, it was really, that if you want to pursue something in computer science, etc., that, you should go to the US and study there. And somehow my dad also quite encouraged me. It wasn't really a trend. Now it has become a trend that everybody goes to the US for education. But my dad encouraged me also quite a bit to go to the US and pursue a degree in computer science, etc. So I think it was, pursuing something in computer science, although I did quite well in school and I got admission into SRCC. But I was always keen to go to the US and study, go into the computer science field. Although I then ended up doing both computer science and finance. So I got a double degree. I was pretty clear in the initial days that I would go and make my life in the US. So actually, I had no intentions of coming back to India. I always thought that I will study here, work here. And honestly, at that point, I didn't even really think about starting like a tech company or anything. It was like, I think I've always lived my life in setting up near-term goals, not very gigantic goals. So my goal was pursue a degree in computer science, do well in that, get a good job, and that's it.
Yeah, gotcha. And Bhanu, again, like as you mentioned, the goal for you or the plan for you was to build a life in the US itself.
Yeah.
So what really triggered you to? I think you were there for 10 years, about 10 years.
That's correct. 94 through 2004. Yes.
2004. So 2004, you landed back in India. I think you started RateGain in 2004, April.
Yeah.
What was that aha moment, or what really triggered you to start RateGain?
So I graduated in 98, and my first job was in consulting. So I was traveling quite a bit for that, and then I decided that I will do I founded a company actually in the US doing very, very similar work where we were doing consulting work. And what is common in consulting is you're traveling quite a bit. There is this think of what is called 3-4-5. 3 days you are at the customer site, and the 4th day you come back, and the 5th day you are in office. So every week I was traveling, and so I got pretty motivated to search for good deals instead of coming back every weekend. I used to look for travel deals. So the initial idea of RateGain occurred to me where I wanted to build a price comparison site where you would find the best deal. And at the same time, there was a company called Kayak, which had also started, which was doing price comparison.
Yeah.
So I got inspired to say, like, look, I'm not the only one thinking about this idea. There are others who are doing it as well. So that's how I thought of RateGain. That's how we started.
So Bhanu, what were the early days like at RateGain? And for the audience, again, like I tell people, in fact, I was telling my friend as well on the way here, people don't know much about B2B companies. Like they don't hear, because B2C are the ones which are like people are aware of, right? And B2B the RateGain is like almost a 8,000, 10,000 CR company now currently in India. Tell us what RateGain does, how the product has evolved over the years, and what's the magical outcome you hold for RateGain moving forward.
Yeah. So when I started the company, I was telling you, we used to be like actually we were a consumer internet site where we would help you find the best travel deals. So let's say you are coming to Delhi, right? And you're looking at the Taj Hotel and the Oberoi's, and we would help you find, what is the difference between, different sites and the hotel's website. Where do you find the best deal for Taj or Oberoi, wherever you end up staying?
Yeah.
So when we pivoted the business model, which was within the first year itself, we started licensing this technology to different online travel agents. So when you, let's say, going back to the example of what I was saying, that you're coming to Delhi and you decided to stay at the Taj Hotel, you're going to endeavor to find the best price. Whether you find that on Make My Trip or Expedia or Booking or on Taj's website itself, right? So we provide that price comparison, and we give this information. We started to give this information to the online travel agents for them to know where they lie in the competitive landscape. Then we started to provide this information to hotels. So I was speaking in an event, and one of our big partners said, this, what you're doing for online travel agents, this is a need for hotels also. So could you also provide this tool to hotels as well, for them to know what their competition is doing? So it's really, we started out by providing this pricing information to hotels. And then very quickly, it was a very, if you think about it, a very niche use case that I was trying to solve for. But we very quickly realized that there would be, more needs that the hotels would need. So when we partnered with this big partner, which was a US-based company, we learned about, distribution needs. The areas that are prevalent for hotels is areas of revenue management, distribution, marketing. So slowly we entered into those arenas as well.
Yeah.
So basically, if you think about what we do now, is we provide an integrated tech stack that allows our customers to acquire guests, retain and engage them, and have a wallet share expansion on how do they cross-sell and upsell to that guest to gain more from them.
Got it. Maybe name a few customers. I think you have about over 1,200 customers located globally. Just give us a few names.
Yeah, so we work with pretty much all the top online travel agents. So Expedia, Booking, Airbnb in India, Make My Trip, Rakuten in Japan, C-Trip in China. So every major OTA, every major hotel chain that you can think of.
Yeah.
So Intercontinental, Marriott, Hilton, Hyatt, Oberoi's, Oyo.
Okay.
All the major car rental companies.
Yeah.
Avis, Budget, Europcar, Sixt, all the major cruise liners. So pretty much we boast of now over 3,000 enterprise customers. So every major supplier and intermediary in the travel ecosystem is now today a RateGain customer. We take a lot of pride in that.
That's the thing. The names that you just gave, people know about them, but the company that's empowering them, again, like this irony of B2B, people are not aware of it. When you went public, Bhanu, when you started the company, you had a goal. At one point, I want to go public.
No, I actually never thought about back in 2004. Like I was sharing with you, I've always had small-term goals, near-term goals. So at that point, I never thought that one day we would be going public. In fact, if you fast forward to even 2021, when we were going through COVID year, which is when I decided to take the company public, even at that point, I was trying to fight for keeping the company alive. I never thought we would go public. But back to 2004, when we started the journey, my goal was very simple. I just wanted to get to a point where I would be earning the same amount of money that I was earning in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't very big goals. It was very, very realistic, short-term goals of just replicating the same amount of earning that I had in the US, so that I could, support my family.
Mm-hmm. No, I know the story behind what quickly kind of like triggered you to take the company public, where you were hanging out with your son in the farmhouse.
Yes.
And how he mentioned.
Yes, you've done your research.
I'll let you maybe tell us the decision of taking the company public.
Yeah. So this was again back to 2021. We are in the midst of COVID, and it was quite an unfortunate period also. So I'm sure you lost somebody. We lost somebody very close to us. So my wife, rightly so, was very paranoid, and both me and my son got COVID, and she said, "You stay out of the house." And so I have a different house in the outskirts of the city, and we relocated there. And my son at that point had very audacious ideas about what we should do, and then he made this suggestion of that, why don't you let me move to the UK, etc. And so I was very inspired by him, that how, despite everything that was going on, we were battling COVID, we'd lost somebody, and he was thinking about the future and being audacious. So at that point, I was very clear that eventually we are going to also come out of COVID, and travel is going to bounce back. The revenge travel is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we were quite optimistic that people's behavior towards travel would change, because people were all confined into this, small room or wherever their closed spaces were, and they really wanted to get out.
Yeah.
And so we were very sure that this will, change. And we took a bet on that, and we recovered, and we recovered like crazy.
Yeah. So Bhanu, you went public in 2021. I forget the exact share price, but it was around 200 something. 400.
Yeah.
And I think in 2024, this year, it was around 800. Currently, it may be around, not sure, like around 700 something. Almost like 8,000 ish CR market cap. What's the magical outcome? You never planned to go public. Now, where do you see RateGain going forward?
You're talking about the share price or
company in general?
Yeah. So look,
share price you can tell me later.
Yeah. So no, I said in one of my other interviews also that, look, I have to do my bit of putting in the effort and heads down executing, and let the investors decide on the outcome and the share price. But in terms of our overall vision, the opportunity is quite huge. So if you look at the travel tech spend, it's about $90 billion globally. And if you look at everything that we do in terms of all the capabilities that we have, that is about 7 to 8 billion right now. And we are still very small in terms of penetrating the TAM that we address, which is 7 to 8 billion. So we are doing about 140, 150 million. So still covering 2-3%. So focus is to continue to execute on the addressable TAM that we have, and also expand on capabilities which would expand the overall TAM that we have to ultimately get to the 90 billion. My vision for the company is, we focus right now on front office software, but we would also get into mid office and back office as well. So front office being everything related to, as I talked about, acquiring the guest, retaining and engaging them, and the wallet share expansion of the guest. But we do want to get into mid office and back office, which is the overall 90 billion TAM. But if I had to sum it all up for you, we basically want to be the tech plumbing or the key platform for digitizing how you travel.
Got it.
So anytime you book travel, you experience RateGain.
Yeah. So it's powered by RateGain. Bhanu, you came back in 2004, a bit over 20 years now. You've seen the country, how it has grown over the years. Also, the tech ecosystem. I know you're involved in the tech ecosystem through investing, mentoring. You recently wrote a post on LinkedIn as well. That that's what for you. That's one of the ways to learn as well by teaching others. Given you've spent about 20 years, you've seen how the ecosystem is evolving. You've built a phenomenal company. What advice would you give, or a message you would give to Indians abroad thinking about India as an opportunity moving forward?
Yeah, I would say that all the actions here in India, it's quite evident when you sort of pick up the papers or read the news as well. I think it's a huge, huge opportunity. I think for the next sort of 2 to 3 decades, it's the decade of India, and under able leadership of our Prime Minister as well. I think there are, as we are now one of the fastest growing economies in the world, it is creating, so many opportunities in all areas. And we've talked about, the government's really pushing on manufacturing, but even the services sector. And now from the industry that I come from SaaS, you know of so many global SaaS companies being built out of India. So I do feel that we have enough opportunity to solve use cases and problems in India. We have now the ecosystem to make in India and sell abroad. And I do feel that there is now an ecosystem available in terms of talent, in terms of capital. So I would encourage everyone who's looking back home to seize this moment. In fact, I feel like I was very, very lucky as well that I moved back to India, because I wouldn't have been able to create RateGain sitting in the US.
Yeah, that was going to be my follow-up question. As you said, you would not have had an impact, as big of an impact you've had in India, if you had stayed back in the US.
Correct.
Recently you talked about Dodge in the US.
Yeah.
And I found it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
You'll see my support, my like on your post. So essentially what he said, we should be inspired, or at least, follow or take some inspiration from what Dodge is doing in the US. And as you mentioned, that started in India through lateral entry in 2019. Bhanu, if, let's say, hypothetically, you are given resources and time, how would you go about building this out? So just to give the context, Dodge is really around smart people from tech or other industries collaborating with the government and helping government run more efficiently, effectively, and have more accountability.
Yeah. Hopefully I won't get into trouble for offering up my suggestions on the topic. So, look, I'm a firm believer that, the accountability, setting up objectives and key goals, and tracking them and holding people accountable will eventually lead to the kind of outcomes that you're desiring. So, and I do feel like not just in the US, but pretty much everywhere in the world, the governments could be much more efficiently run and also held accountable. So, I mean, obviously we come from private enterprise, and even what President Trump is going to do is get a couple of guys who actually are very, very successful in running very large scale businesses and employing some of that thought process, right? So in my head, start with setting up your, what the OKR philosophy is and how most of our tech businesses are run, which is to have, clear objectives with, tied to key results.
Yeah.
Right. And ensuring that I also am a believer of that most often if there are too many cooks, that also slows you down and adds bureaucracy. So how do you, reduce the red tape and bureaucracy at different layers so that things can move much faster? There could be a fine balance in how, things are driven and driving efficiency on how they are run as well.
Yeah. Hopefully at some point we are able to, and I feel it's about to happen. It's really a matter of time. And we'll switch gears here, Bhanu. We'll get to know you outside of work. What are you most obsessed about these days outside of work?
I'm obsessed about it, but I'm hoping in the new year I do something about it. I feel pretty blessed with how my life has turned out in terms of being able to create an impact in the world of travel and technology and hospitality, and also, we employ 1,000 people. How we've been able to create an impact in people's lives, etc., and make travel in the process more frictionless. But I do now think a lot about how to create a much larger impact for people who are less fortunate. So there are some sort of non-profit type ideas brewing in my mind and how to create impact in that area. What I really associate myself with is education, and especially girl education. So I would say I'm thinking about ideas around that, but have to yet, action them. And hopefully, 2025 would be a year where we, fructify some of these ideas.
And Bhanu, a life hack that you just can't live without now. It could be any hack, whether it's personally or it could be professionally, or it could be, in other words, non-negotiable.
So I can talk about that. I don't know if you follow my posts. I talk a lot about being insanely awesome. It's almost my tagline. I've got it trademarked also. So to me, being that state of mind, which is insanely awesome, is very, very powerful. Because when somebody asks me, how are you doing? My response is, I'm insanely awesome. And no matter how I'm feeling at that particular point of time, it manifests so much positivity, not only for the recipient, but also for me. And that's kind of like the state of mind, I like to be in. So it is almost something that I repeat to myself, to lift myself in times of distress. So I would say that maybe that's my life hack.
And when Bhanu, how do you ensure that you are reaching your highest potential?
So I'm a big believer that you have to be very, very persistent. Unfortunately, the output or results are never directly proportionate to the input and the effort that you put in. But you have to believe in that process of putting in the effort every day, because ultimately the output will catch up with the input or the effort that you're doing. So, the other thing that I do effectively is, people only talk about usually your life is life can be broken down to several quadrants. Most people relate to their life as a quadrant of career and money and wealth, right? But it's a lot more than that. So setting your goals maybe in every quadrant, whether it's related to your health, your social life, your life with your partner, parenting, emotional life, spiritual life, setting up goals in each of those facets. I have found that to be extremely effective in trying to to get back to what you asked me to live your life at full potential.
I think Oprah co-authored a book around this kind of theme that you talked about, and I really enjoyed reading that book. I'm forgetting the name. And Bhanu, given a chance, dead or alive, 3 dinner guests that you can invite. Who would they be and why?
I have a bunch of people in my mind that I admire. So if you allow me, I'm going to go beyond 3. Maybe call a few more that maybe have like more people at each of the dinners. So I am quite. I first of all, I'll start with my dad because he's been such a big influence for me, and I think it shaped up a lot of how I think about my professional life. Then I pretty much all these thought leaders, world leaders, I get really inspired by them. I admire Elon Musk for just the drive for innovation and solving big problems at scale. In India, I also admire our business leader Mukesh Ambani, just for a very wholesome life. That he leads. I mean, it's business, but it's also trying to create impact in all other facets.
Bhanu, I think the next stage of, let's talk about specifically about the tech ecosystem in India. It'll be more around building companies in India and for the world, for India and for the world. And this is exactly what you've done. What needs to be true to be able to build a company for India and for the world at scale, which you've done?
Yeah. So I'll talk specific to building a product SaaS or like a tech company. I think there are really a couple of things that you need to really figure out. It's finding use cases to be addressed by a platform or a product, right? And iterating through that, that it is compelling enough value for somebody to actually, pay for it. And then the second big, item that you need to get right is the go-to-market motion, right? So I'll talk specific building in India for outside India. So depending on the, on the ticket size, on who you are marketing to, the go-to-market motion can change. So in our parlance, we talk about what is called product-led growth. Where the product is so good, people come self-sign up, and basically just like how you have in video games, are buying Robux or some points or credits to have greater functionality. And then if the ticket size is bigger and the functionality is more complex, then you have more of a outbound enterprise-led go-to-market motion. So net, depending on the kind of product that you build, you need different go-to-marketing strategies to be able to penetrate that. And then also keeping in mind that as you look at scaling, it's also very important to understand the local nuances and being able to customize and fit your product for that particular geography and market. And both these, product market fit and, product adjacencies that you get into and the go-to-market motion associated with that, they go hand in hand. So it's almost like in a circle.
Yeah.
You make the product, you take it to market, you improvise on how you go to market, you learn from the market, you come back and iterate on the product, and it's just basically a cycle till you find that flywheel which you can accelerate.
Yeah. And do you think you spending 10 years in the US, having built the network, understanding how things work there, gave you an edge?
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfair advantage? Of
Absolutely.
doing this?
Absolutely. So because I worked at very large consulting companies, as I was talking earlier, and I had access to CXO levels, and I was able to get a sense on, because if you look at even RateGain, even today, although we have small hotels to large hotels, but we are predominantly a very enterprise B2B company. And I think that has a lot to do with the influence I had early on in my career on how to sell to large enterprises, because that's what I did when I worked there. So yeah, I think it had a great influence. And having worked in the US, I understood the culture, the people, the local nuances, and coupled with how do you sell to big Fortune 500 companies, that gave us an edge in our ability to, start small and yet be able to penetrate these large accounts.
Got it. Bhanu, I am grateful to you for really, giving me this time and walking us through your journey so far. And I'm excited for what's ahead in the future for you and the folks at RateGain.
Thank you, Shiva. Love doing this with you.
Absolutely.